Welcome, everybody, to episode number 16 of The Bunker Talk. I have my really great recent friend, Erik Chafin with Children's Harbor. Thank you so much, Eric, for joining me today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited. Thank you also for being so gracious when we had to reschedule. So I appreciate you being here and your time. I know you're a very, very busy person.
A little bit, yeah. And I got to say, this is great because it's literally right down the street from me.
I know.
This was insane.
You could be a regular, honestly.
I'm okay with it. I'll bring coffee, whatever else you want. I'm fine with that.
Tell everyone a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, and I can't wait to dig into Children's Harbor.
Yeah, no, so I'm Erik Chafin with Children's Harbor. We're a nonprofit here in Pembroke Pines. I'm the Chief Development Officer, so I'm out in the community, having awareness of what Children's Harbor is doing and the impact we're making, and helping teens that have been neglected and abused and abandoned. I'm actually a local. Been in Florida all my life, third generation.
Same.
So it's pretty cool. I know when you and I were talking before, it's pretty wild. Not too many of us.
There's not many of us, no. My
no.
mom is also a native too. My dad's not, but my mom was born here, and my brother and I too, yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. From Miami, so I kind of transplanted to Broward.
Yeah, same.
Yep. So all good stuff, though.
We got here early.
Yeah, kind of early. Yeah.
My parents still live in the house they bought when we moved. I was in third grade.
Okay.
92.
Yeah, there it is.
Crazy.
That is wild.
It's crazy. So tell us a little bit about, let's start with, how'd you get into the nonprofit space?
Great question. So I've never thought I would be in a nonprofit. Always loved, nonprofits and how they give back and the connection to the community and so forth. So basically I was in IT, started my career in IT in the 90s. And so I actually worked for a public company that for about 10, 11 years. It was a home builder in Coral Gables. And from there, had some other different technology careers. And then the past decade, I was actually selling IT here in local to the community, and brought Children's Harbor on as a client, and found out they literally were 7 minutes away from my house. So I'm like, wow, let me go by. And I kind of know what they do, but not really know exactly what it was. So I went by, and Tiffany and a couple of the girls in development gave me a tour. And I got to tell you, if you guys haven't been out there, it's Sheridan 196, dog park right behind it, about 8 acres in Pembroke Pines. And I was just blown away after I went through the tour of the impact that Children's Harbor's team was making on these kids. I had no idea it existed at the time. And these teenagers that basically come to us broken because of unfortunate things that have gone on. But through that whole tour, I'm like, what do you need me to do? I'm here, I'm out, I'm actually connecting with tons of business owners in the community. Love to sing your song. So Tiffany said, hey, just get us out there, get our word to what we're doing and the impact. So I started doing that, connecting with some folks in the community. And then they brought me onto the board for about a year, which, kind of happens in nonprofits. So I did that for about a year, which was fantastic, amazing work we did. And then at the time I was actually looking for another opportunity, and they kind of heard that I was out in the market looking for another opportunity, and they, board chair and CEO, had pulled me in and said, hey, we'd really like you to come in and help us move the needle. We really like somebody with a for-profit mindset to really help us. So here we are, 2.5 years into it, and I got to tell you, it's one of the most amazing journeys I've had.
So I have 2 questions just from everything you just said. One, let's start with, how do people usually end up working in nonprofit spaces? Like, if someone wants to work in that space, what do you think it would take? First, automatically heart condition, right? Like, you went there, you were moved, you wanted to participate. I would assume that there has to be an emotional connection, right? To want to.
It really does. It really does. I have 3 amazing kids right now. They it was just in my heart to see these other kids that went through they were doing. And I'm like, I have 3 blessed children. I need to make impact, and people in the community need to know about this, because we're all, most of us are living our life in a little bubble and not knowing anything what's going on. So exposing the community to really some of these things that are out there, to me, was very important.
And so then what is it that it takes or let me rephrase the question. What is it that nonprofits typically look for in future board members? Like, how does someone end up in that position?
So great question. Everybody has a different value set. You have board members that come onto a board They want to make impact. They really have their heart set in really moving what we want to do and just changing that dynamic of child welfare. We have a board chair right now, Paul Smith, and he actually works in child welfare, and he has done absolutely amazing things for our board in general. But more specifically, there's just a lot of legislation that has changed in that space, which he's helped us navigate through. So it depends on the person, really. Right. And you have other people. They have other, boards, people, want to advance their career, and they want to give back to the community, but they are also leveraging. It's almost a brand perspective too. So you have a kind of,
and that's okay. I think that some people feel maybe disingenuous doing that. I don't even know if that's a word. But they don't feel genuine when they do that. But, I had Michael Wild on the podcast. He was one of probably my first.
It's a wild world.
Yeah.
Sorry. I had to, Mike. I'm sure I'd listen, aren't you?
I hadn't even met him. I met him that morning.
Oh,
and it was
God
amazing.
bless you.
I'm so happy it happened that way because I just learned who he was on the show. So
Mike's a good friend. He's great people.
We had a lot of fun.
Oh, he's a good time.
And so, but he said it that, nonprofits, it's time, treasure, talent, right? And so it's like at the beginning, when you don't have the treasure, you have the time. So you just give of your time. And even if you're giving of your time and you're also trying to grow your profession, especially young entrepreneurs, right? Yeah. If you get in early into that space, you also get access to people that can help you build your career and build your professional sphere of networking and teach you how to network. And I think that that's okay, right? Like it's okay that there's a little bit of something in it for you, as long as the motives and the, the goal is still just, the welfare of, in this case, the children, right?
And I think most people, when they get involved, they don't really realize until you actually engage what's gonna transpire. And even for me, and I found it's just so rewarding on all levels. Right. And then also, like you just said, the networking piece is huge. Connecting with like-minded people on the board. That you find that you're helping each other and you're helping this amazing cause, and it becomes almost like a brother or sisterhood through that. But on the topic of Mike Wild, which I think is just a great topic in itself, so hopefully you're listening, Mike. So Mike was funny when I came into that. Mike's been a nonprofit for.
Oh my gosh, he told me he was on a million boards.
But long time. So, I would take him to lunch. Hey man, what do you think about this? What do you think of bouncing ideas off him? And and he was helping me out and give me some of his thoughts. And one thing that's actually funny, and he's like, Eric, it's all about value and where somebody sits and where their heart's at. And he goes, you have different, the Humane Society, you have this, you have that. And I said, yeah, Mike. I said, well, how does that work? He goes, well, I got to tell you, no offense to what I'm about to say, but I really don't like dogs. I really like animals. I don't like old people so much, but I love kids.
And he's an estate planning attorney.
So of course that's a joke, but it was so funny. But he really has an affinity to kids, sure. And you can see all the nonprofits that he's aligned with. It's all kids and the welfare of kids. And that being kind of similar to me, I have kids myself, and you kind of relate to that, and not thinking at all like, wow, this is just can't happen to kids in general.
Right.
So,
right.
Anyway.
Well, I think that's also important in choosing not only where your money goes, right, but if you are going to participate and be on a board or be employed by, work with a nonprofit, it should be something that's true to you.
Correct.
It should be something that you're passionate about, right? Don't just do it. Well, because if you just do it to do it, right, it becomes a chore. You want to do something where you're passionate and you can give back 100% of, what you're capable of.
Leave a little legacy of yourself.
Right. Right. So talk to us a little bit about Children's Harbor.
Sure.
How did it start? Who's a good relationship for you guys to know in our community? How can we help? All that good stuff.
Well, that's great. So it's interesting you talk about networking. So how this whole thing was created was by a small group of businessmen in Broward County, which is just mind-boggling. And it's really, really wild of the intention of Broward County. We just have some really good people in Broward County. So a gentleman named Bill Mahoney, back in the 90s with a few other folks. You probably heard the name Tom Shea and a couple other folks that are very prominent in Broward County. Marty Alexander as well. They basically got together, and Bill saw this huge gap in the community. And basically the gap was when any time a foster or kid was removed from a home and there was a sibling, brother or sister, not only they were going to be removed, they're going to be placed in separate homes altogether. So you imagine they went through this unspeakable act that went in the house. They were removed. Now they're completely detached from their brother or sister. and statistically shown from basically a connection perspective, there is more connection, more bonding through siblings than there actually is with mother and father. So basically, from a hierarchy, it goes from siblings and mother, then the dad. And unfortunately, I guess us guys are the bottom, but that's just statistically shown. Can't really argue with the numbers, but which is very fascinating. But anyway, with Bill Mahoney and his group, they basically created this safe harbor for these teens and kids basically to be safe while they're going through their journey. So that started back in the 90s. So fast forward to 2000, then we basically acquired a piece of land in Pembroke Pines, which was in concert effort with Charlie Dodge with Pembroke Pines. A lot of people were involved with that. Ron Bergeron was very involved with that. Lots of people in the community were involved with that. So it was pretty amazing to hear the history behind all this. And then where we're at today is completely changed. We had younger kids back in the 90s. Because of Tallahassee and a lot of the different changes that have gone on there, we now only specifically help teenagers that have gone through neglect and abuse, because it does make sense. They want to put funding towards proactive measures to correct things that are in the home before things like this end up happening. So it makes a lot of sense, but we still are, making amazing impact with the teens that we serve here in Pembroke Pines.
Yeah. And I saw it firsthand when I went to the prom, which was a great event that you guys hosted. And I met the scholarship winner. Yeah. He was so nice.
Jackie's great.
Yeah. Such a nice gentleman. It was a great event. So kudos to you guys. Obviously, you guys have run a great organization, because the support was, there wasn't an empty seat in the room. So
thank you.
It was a great event. Tell us a little bit about who is the right partner for you guys. Like, who is it that you look for when you're looking for partnerships, even for the community to refer you guys? Yeah. How do companies get involved? Do you prefer companies? How does that work?
So great question. So, basically people ask me that question all the time. Eric, what's a great introduction for you? And I say, people with money. Yeah. Of course, that's a given, right? But it's interesting because, I had a really long thought in terms of that. It's basically people that give back to the community at some capacity. Either with money, time, or both. They understand philanthropy and how that works. And those people are great in terms of just introductions and just having them understand what we do. Because a lot of people come to us like, I didn't even know you existed. Mm-hmm. So that awareness.
I didn't until Miss Esquire. Yeah.
Yeah. So that whole aspect of it, just being aware of who we are, is huge, because it just takes time, and those relationships do take a little bit of time to get moving. That's one aspect. Companies are great. We have a lot of different, some of our events that are coming up. Winterfest we have coming up. We have a gala coming up. And a lot of these help us raise the money we need from an annual perspective. And companies and sponsorships are probably the number one thing for me to connect with, if, whoever is in your circle, of your folks.
Yeah. No, that's great to know, because sometimes people, sometimes people just assume that you guys are also taken care of. Like, there's enough, right? And there's never enough.
It's amazing. So it's this is all public knowledge. Everybody sees this anyway, because it's all, we're a nonprofit. When we first came aboard, you have a goal you have to make, and we have grants, we have funding, we have everything to keep the lights on. But the money that helps the kids with life skills and all the programs, we basically have to raise that money to bring that in. So when I first came aboard, that goal was about $380,000 annually. So then, as we're going through COVID and a lot of budget changes, and we had to increase salaries, Tiffany Dogie walks into my office and says, "Hey, by the way, that goal we were talking about, that's changed a little bit." And I go, "What do you mean?" It's gone up a little bit. I said, "Okay, great." And I said, "What? How much has gone up?" "Oh, we're up to $650 now." I'm like, "Oh, okay, all right."
A little bit.
So we looked at each other and they said, we could do this. So we did. Yeah. We figured it out and went into the community and, connected with folks like yourself and, your network and so forth. And really that helps fill the gaps. Mm-hmm. And it's all about the kids. So every dollar that we bring in, Ciara, 88 cents of it goes directly to the kids in the program.
That's amazing.
So it is a big thing, because I know a lot of people, they look at nonprofits and like, how much is really going to, and we run a super tight ship in terms of, what we do.
That is so impressive to know that much of it is having such an impact, especially locally here in our community. Like, it's in our backyard.
Yeah.
That is so impactful. As far as the programming that you guys do, can you talk a little bit about that? Like, what is it that like the life skills? Like, what is it that you guys are teaching the children, or what are the curriculums like?
Yeah, so life skills is basically our good sized department that helps our kids with anything you can imagine: cooking, taking care of yourself, just the normal things that you and I
Take for granted.
Soft skills, financial literacy. School advocate. We have school advocates that are on our team that make sure that, are the kids doing what they need to do? Are they being treated appropriately in school? They have a lot of different dynamics there. All of that costs money.
Right.
All that costs money. But the life skills, really, that is really where, when these kids come to us, Ciara, it literally is, they're broken. They've lost trust. They don't really, every single adult that they come across, they basically can't trust. So now we have to bring them back up,
right, and
help them find hope again. And through that, life skills is one of the anchors that really helps them through that.
Yeah. That's heartbreaking. That's so heartbreaking, but also very powerful, rewarding work, right? Like, I don't even want to get into that. Yeah, that is special work for sure. How can we support you outside of obviously funds?
Right.
But how many events do you guys do a year on average? Do you guys accept all kinds of volunteers? Is there a vetting for the volunteers? How does that work?
Yeah, so basically, as you mentioned, funding obviously is always great.
Sure.
Our events, we have quarterly mixers that the one just passed. That we do those are great. We also have our 2 major annual events. That's going to be Winterfest. We have that every year. It's been over a decade. That's a Grateful Palate. That's a great way to come out and be part of what we're doing. This year, it's actually expanded even more. We've acquired the little grassy area at Grateful Palate, so it's like a little bit of shooters, so it's been expanded. And then we also have our gala, which will be in March, and that's going to be a great time. Volunteers, we actually have groups that'll come out. Could be companies that want to have impact, and that all depends on what projects we currently have right now. We've had New York Life out. We've had, other, UKG will come out. They'll paint. We'll do some different things in like landscaping, and it all depends on what facilities has to really,
Right, and what need.
Yeah.
And so, there's obviously an age out, right?
There is.
Okay. And so then can you talk about like what happens to the children?
Yeah. So that's one of the questions, like, well, when they turn 18, well, back in the day, they basically got a bag and said, have a nice day. You're on your own now.
Right.
And
at 18.
At 18.
Wow.
At 18. And we found that was a gap. We always say had to do something about that. And about 6-7 years ago, we created another part of our agency called Browns Harbor, and that's our 18 to 23 population.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah. So if they're still with us and they, and they want to move to that direction, because again, they're 18, they're adult, they have to make a decision. We've had a few that's like, oh, I'm good. And they, go think they do their own thing. I don't know if you knew what you were doing at 18.
No, I still don't.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Sometimes I'm just like, oh.
Right. So you take some, a teenager or an 18-year-old that's gone through some other stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So they come back and, we help them and transition them to Browns Harbor, which is about the same amount. We have about 30 residents in that area. It's a little bit further east on, University and Taft. A really nice property, and it's an apartment, affordable living, independent living, and they have to basically part of it be a 90-minute success coach a week, and if they're part of that and accountability, they totally can actually be a resident and stay with us.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's great. Yeah, you guys are actually setting them up with the life skills are. That's a huge. So what's the age that they can come in?
18, so 18 to 23.
But to the Children's Harbor part.
So Children's Harbor, they'll be 13.
Yeah, so
10
13 years.
13, yeah, exactly.
10 crucial years.
And I could tell you, their situations typically they're gonna stay with us. There's a lot of people like, oh, they can be reunited with their guardian, or typically doesn't happen because of unfortunate circumstances. But we become their family. We pour a love into them, and you can just imagine to help them in the journey.
Tell everyone about what happened at prom with the I don't want to say what happened, but with the scholarship and the winner of
yeah. So yeah,
it was so moving.
Yeah. So Jackie is one of our kids. Well, he's a man now. He's 18, but he was with us at Children's Harbor, and amazing kid. It's very dynamic. We have, and he transitioned to Browns Harbor. But what's interesting is, and people don't realize, the gap in the community when a foster kid is moving on. We can align them up with tons of opportunities in the community. of work and, all these different things, but they need transportation. That's a huge gap. It's a catch-22. So how to get there? You're going to take public transportation. That really is hard. They can do it, but it's not very reliable. So what was amazing, with the help of Western Rotary, they actually gifted Jackie a car, and to fill that gap, to help him be successful. And they presented it at the prom, which was, he had no idea what's going to happen.
That was amazing.
Yeah, there was a lot of people that had no idea what's going to happen, and when it happened, he was like, "What is happening? This is really happening."
That was amazing.
So so we've been very blessed as Children's Harbor with a lot of people that are helping our kids, because we can't do it alone. It literally takes an entire community to help this.
Yeah. If someone is looking to, get involved with a nonprofit, again, I didn't know that you guys existed until we met at Miss Esquire, and so what are some questions that we should ask, right? That I would assume that the average person in our community, either they just donate to the larger nonprofits because they know them and because they have a name recognition, they trust them, right? Which we don't know those. Sometimes we don't know those statistics. I mean, the fact that you guys gave that figure, it's impactful, right? That we know that so much of the money is going back to the children. But if someone's looking to choose a nonprofit to get involved with, what are some of the things that we should ask? How do we know, which one's a really, really efficient one, making a larger impact in the mission?
Yeah. So it's interesting you say that. I have had a lot of people in the community, new donors, that have come to us and become new donors because they really don't like the experience of beginning from the bigger, larger agencies. And everybody's doing great work. Everybody's doing great work. But these are donors coming to me and say, "Hey, you know what? I really love what you're doing. And I know what I'm giving back, my time, my money, everything else. I know I could see it. I can feel it. I can be part of it." So we're seeing that. But if somebody is actually looking to make a decision on a nonprofit, there are a couple different websites out there that you can vet nonprofits, and they score them, 0 to 100, and where they lie in certain criteria. I'd really highly recommend to go out there and check those out. Yeah. And we've had some funding and some other engagements. People vet us before they even talk to us, and we say, "Hey, we see in Charity Navigator that you're at 100. That's amazing, and that's the only reason we're talking." So then you have that aspect. So and that's one of the things. If you see a nonprofit, you want to become involved, do your due diligence. Right. Check that out.
I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah, Charity Navigator is one of the biggest websites you can go and you can check that out. And you can see all the funds. You can see what the CEO is making from salary. So a lot of times it's like, well, I don't want to pay the CEO's salary or the admin. So it'll give you a whole perspective of the dynamic of that nonprofit. That'd be the first place. And other places, talk to people that are already involved. Talk to the board chair. Reach out to the CEO. Talk, the main people, the executives, and you'll get a feel of the culture, because everything culture is huge. It's one of the things. I've worked in tons of companies, and public, private, and this is probably one of the most amazing cultures that really Tiffany has created for Children's Harbor. So that's really important, and to any organization, especially nonprofit.
Right. What so the goal of this podcast is to help young business owners, no matter young in business or in age, doesn't matter. What do you think you took from your for-profit side, right? And brought it to this nonprofit side that could be useful for any entrepreneur?
People skills.
Something lacking
people
nowadays,
skills.
Right?
No, it's understanding people. I think, being in sales, you've been doing this a long time, and it's just really understanding and knowing and asking questions, asking really, really good questions, I think is the biggest thing. One of the things I always like to understand when I'm in front of people networking, it could be wherever you're at, is really make it about them. Make it about them and understand where their goals at, what do they want to do, where are they going? Because you're going to find out a lot more if it's about them. And because at the end of the day, people are going to be turned off and say, "Hey, by the way, this is what I'm doing. This is what I have." Right. Nobody really cares.
Right. Well, especially in those networking settings where everyone is just saying the same thing over. It's like rinse and repeat. Yeah.
So from a sales side, I also think that the people side of understanding dynamics of certain people, has been very, very helpful for me coming from, IT sales, and now in this aspect is just understanding who you're talking to and what type of personality type they are. That's really big. I'm really big into disc. Love disc.
Okay.
I don't know if you like disc
Yes.
at all.
I do. I haven't done it in a while. But
I absolutely love it. And there's an actual product that I'll probably have to show you that is a LinkedIn plugin that basically shows disc profiles of the individuals. So I've been using this for maybe 5 years, but it helps because if you're going to be connecting with a donor or a potential prospect, you're going to want to know their style.
Right.
What are they going to be like? Are they going to be they're going to be a D, they're going to be very dominant, or they're going to be an IB talker or whatever, or are they a CFO type and they're going to just, be all about the detail.
Right.
So being prepared for that, I always love, diving into that, and I could probably talk another hour with you on that. So.
But that's so interesting too, because, people get into any sort of business, right? Because they love the industry or the business, or they're really good at it, but they don't, all of the whole world revolves around people skills.
Yeah.
And you get way further if you have really good people skills.
AI is good, but it's not that good.
It's not, it helps, it supplements things, but there's certain people skills is one of those things. If you have it, if you're not necessarily charming, but just if you know how to understand your audience, how to pivot when necessary, how to, be able to talk with the next person, no matter where they're from, like that is powerful in life and in business.
Yeah.
To be able to communicate freely with people and show interest in others, that really does get you way further than, AI or any education, really.
Yeah, 100%.
Have you read any specific books that have helped you build your people skills that you can give us some suggestions? And if not directly on people skills, any book that has changed your professional life or just your life in general?
Yeah, Go Giver. The Go Giver.
I have that one
and
to read. I haven't read it yet.
I'm a big audiobook guy. So
do I do both.
Oh, you do both?
I have to, because I can't. So because I speak Spanish as well. So sometimes I think in Spanish.
Okay.
So when I read, I feel like having it read to me while reading, I get the tone behind it. Because sometimes I read it in my own voice and then I think I'm missing like the intention behind the tone. So I love to have it read to me while I'm reading so I can retain it, and I highlight. And I don't do Kindles. I do hard paper books.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to do the hard paper book.
It's so interesting. I actually had a mentor of mine that I've never been a real big reader, read, and he actually said, "Hey, you need to read this book." This is going back a few years. And I'm like, okay, great. Come back another week later. He's like, did you read it? I'm like, no. and then another week later, did you read it? And I said, he grabs my phone. He goes, here, Audible's on there. It's downloaded. You have no excuse.
Yeah.
And it was interesting. And after that, I started devouring books. And it was just my style learning. So, but if you identify that, you can start really planning.
So Go Giver. Why?
Go Giver.
Why was it so impactful?
It is basically just the whole idea of, it's not about what you're giving, what you're basically receiving. It's how you are intentionally giving, and it's just unconditional. And the universe basically will reward you. It's a whole nother methodology in terms of what that looks like. And Bob Berg is absolutely amazing. He's got some other couple books that are out, but that was really impactful for me.
That's good. Yeah, I've heard it's great. It is on my list to read. One of my last questions for you. As far as moving forward, what's on the horizon for Children's Harbor that you can talk about, if anything?
Sure.
What do you guys have coming up?
So, obviously the events, that's one thing, but bigger things that we've been looking at, it hasn't really been public knowledge. We have some space that is actually on the property that we've been thinking about. It's not public, but thinking about actually building on. So that's soon to come. That's all I can give you.
Yeah.
So
good.
We'll figure out what that looks like, and then we'll officially put that out there. But we've been talking quite a bit about
That's awesome.
that.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
It was a short but powerful one, right? We got to all the details needed. I think that you're amazing. I've appreciated getting to know you. I admire you and Tiffany and Children's Harbor for all of the work that you guys are doing. You guys are doing amazing work, and
Thank you.
It takes special people to be in the role that you guys are in, because I could imagine that there's some days you get home and you're just completely defeated, with what you see, with what you guys are doing. It has to take an emotional toll on you guys as well. So that is appreciated, that you bear that, right, to help all of these children and to allow us to help them too. So, I appreciate that you guys are doing that for our community and helping so many children and really molding lives and making such an impact, a legacy, like you said.
Well, I appreciate you allowing us to have a platform to be really, sing our praises here, and what we're doing, the impact we're making in the community. Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate problem. It.
Thank you for being here. I'll link everything in the show notes, tell everybody where they can find you if people have any questions and they want to reach out.
Well, you can find me on social. I'm sure you can find me there, Eric Chafin, and then also Children's Harbor at www.children'sharbor.org. And you can find out all the information there, programs, events, and good stuff.
And I'll link you in the notes. I'll link all your socials and all that good stuff. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I appreciate it. You're my first nonprofit guest.
All right.
So it's going to be a good one.
There it is. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.